and welcome to Are You Afraid of the Talk? I'm your host, Beth Redov, and we're here to talk about anti-Semitism today. With me today, I have Amalia and Dave, fellow Jews, and we're here to talk about how it's been really rough and what it's like to be a Jew right now. So welcome, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for having us, Beth.
So I guess where we can start is what was being Jewish? What did it mean to you growing up? How do you connect with Judaism or just being a Jew? Not even necessarily the religious part, but just like your experience being Jewish. I know I grew up conservative. I have rabbis and cantors on my dad's side as far back. I can't even tell you how far back. My grandfather was a rabbi. My dad went to yeshiva. He did get kicked out. So that's how we met my mom, because they actually went to public school for the first time. And we were just raised very differently from the rest of my family. And then my mom's side actually wasn't really religious at all. They were more cultural. So I had a really interesting blend of the really religious and the really cultural, and it kind of meshed. And I grew up in a conservative temple celebrating all the holidays and really having a Jewish education, which I probably was not excited about as a kid because I couldn't go trick-or-treating on Halloween sometimes if it landed on Hebrew school. But now going through what we're going through, I'm so happy that I was raised that way. And I don't know how you guys feel and what your story was, but I'm very interested in hearing.
So I grew up very reformed, family from the Soviet Union. I'm first generation here, born and raised in Queens.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, I always heard about, all the anti-Semitism that my parents experienced in the Soviet Union. That's actually why they came to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
My mom even told me pretty recently, actually a couple of months ago, she's like, yeah, we're Jewish refugees.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was that bad there. I mean, it's still bad from what I hear, but
yeah.
It was really bad there. And every day they tell me, how lucky we are to be here. But, the last couple of months have been very rough,
Mm-hmm.
to say the least,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. And, it's been rough.
Yeah.
That's really the word that I could use
Yeah.
right now.
It's definitely been rough. And I definitely want to get more into what it was like to be a Jew in the Soviet Union, because I used to have a boss at the school I worked with. I'm a social worker, and my clinical supervisor was from Russia. He's a Jew, and he came here and he converted to Christianity. But he goes, "I'm always a Jew, Beth," and I never understood it, because I was always like, the society in America is being Jewish is a religion and that's it. And I didn't get it until all this stuff kind of happened. For me, it hit more May 2021 than now. Obviously, October 7th was a blindsided, traumatic experience. But I know Amalia and I have talked, and May 2021 was really, excuse my language, but fucked up for us. But I finally got what he meant. And he's like, Beth, you couldn't be Jewish in Soviet Union. You got beat up. You got attacked. There are all these, and then reading into it, I mean, the propaganda is insane of just being a Zionist, what we're seeing now here. So sorry to go off on a tangent, but I'm so interested in that, actually. So, Amalia, I want to hear.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
When we get to it.
Yeah. Amalia, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I feel like I can relate to a few of these things. And I think when you mentioned ethnicity and religion when it comes to being Jewish, I think that was something that I also really was trying to more specifically struggling with as a kid, because I actually grew up in Israel till I was 7, and we were not religious at all. There was nothing, we didn't really even celebrate holidays. I mean, of course, whatever the holiday was in Israel and whatever was going around, obviously, but it wasn't very specific. We weren't keeping kosher. So that, I didn't actually, once we moved to America when I was 7, my parents, they took me and just me. That's when they started making me go into temple, and they were like, we're going to synagogue every Saturday and you're coming with. And that's when we started really like kind of getting involved in the religion.
Hmm.
However, still not as religious growing up. Like even once I moved to America, like still just going to temple and got bat mitzvahed. But in terms of like keeping kosher and really just following everything and just keeping really Judaism as a religion to us wasn't as strong. So really more on the conservative side of things, I'd say is where really I'm at now.
Yeah. Um, and your, correct me if I'm wrong, your grandparents were Holocaust survivors?
Yeah. Um, well, so my grandparents actually were able to leave before everything got bad, but
Mhm.
their parents decided to stay in Germany at the
Okay.
time, and they did not survive the Holocaust. So
Mhm.
thank God that my grandparents were like, "We're going, we're leaving," even to Israel, which was like nothing was over there at the time, like a lot
Mhm.
of desert and nothing much. They were like, we got to go. It's going to be better than whatever this is.
Mhm.
So thank God they did, because I wouldn't be here if they didn't leave.
Yeah. And I think that's something that escapes so many people is that we are one generation of just not existing, and it's kind of mind-blowing to think had our grandparents or parents not left, like we wouldn't exist. Like that is just like kind of mind-blowing to me,
Yeah,
and it's just like something I don't understand why people who aren't Jewish and even some people who are just don't get. And I think what I've seen is like we were not educated well as Jews. We are just told it's a religion and thank God for Roots Medal because I got a real education in what it means to be a Jew. And she is like literally my saving grace because I was like, oh my God, yes, I know I had a feeling in May of 2021, and if people don't know what happened, it was like a usual thing that always happened. Like during Ramadan, something would start where they would start with people in Israel so that they would retaliate during Ramadan, and then they could say, "Here's justification for." Shooting rockets. And I think the Sheikh Jarrah settlement area, there was something going on there and it just blew up and gave Hamas another reason to just start attacking. And the media, it was the first time I saw the media twist things and say Israel attacked Gaza, and I was like, what? And then I looked it up, was not true. And I saw so many people I know go, be on the right side of history. It's simple and free Palestine. And my world was flipped upside down. And I was like, holy shit. Like, what they told us in Hebrew school is this is going to happen to you. You have no idea what it's going to look like. It's not going to be exactly like the Holocaust, but you're going to feel it and you're going to know it. And it was exactly that. And thank God for Hebrew school for that. But like, thank God for Debbie, who is behind Roots Medal, for educating Jews on what it actually means to be a Jew. And I don't know what your guys' experience is of like waking up to like what anti-Semitism like really is. Like, I'd be interested to hear that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to you, Amalia, actually, around like 2021 when like a bunch of people that we worked with, started posting, obviously, like this performative, for lack of a better word, bullshit
Right.
without looking into what actually was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I always kind of knew there was anti-Semitism out there. So I wasn't like necessarily shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I think what kind of shocked me then and shocks me now is the lack of compassion
Mm-hmm.
towards Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Because like what happened in 2021 for me was I was basically dunked in like cold water when I realized how the so-called progressive movement just turned their backs
Yep.
on Jews because they view Jews as like white,
Right.
and like we just discussed. Jews come from different backgrounds.
Right.
And I had an experience with somebody who I was friendly with. I like I saw him at the gym. I went to undergrad with him, and we had the similar interests. But he posted something on Instagram that was basically like anti-Semitic dog whistle in
Mm,
2021. I commented on it, basically saying like this, like, what are you trying to say? I don't remember the exact words that I said, but long story short, he ended up posting me on his story to essentially like get his followers to attack me,
wow.
and he has like, at the time, I think he had like 10,000 followers.
Oh my
You
God.
know, he's a fucking author now, of course.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like nobody really did anything. Like, I got like maybe like three or four people that like tried to like
Right.
message me,
Hmm.
and I'm just and I'm just like, okay, like, great, like, you're like, wow, big man with like 10,000 followers, just like sharing attacks on you when you're spreading just what ultimately is just like misinformation
Right.
and lies to like spread to like that fit your agenda of like so-called progressive values,
Hmm.
and that made me kind of view him differently, but also it made me view just the progressive movement very differently after that. Like, I was never like a huge fan of like the progressive movement personally.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm more moderate, like
Mhm.
I'm more in the center, and like, I can like, there's good and bad things about it.
Right.
But that's kind of when I realized that this isn't like, these aren't like progressive values. Like, you're really just kind of hating
People.
on a group just because, like, Jews happen to be a small group, and where we also happen to be very successful,
Hmm.
but like, again, we're still a minority.
Right. And not everybody's
That's something that I
successful.
keep forgetting as well. Like, I'm part
Right.
of a minority group,
Right. Well,
which
we're
is
told
cool,
we're
but
not.
also like,
We're told we're
Sorry.
not.
fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're told I mean, if you ask people, they think there are like billions of Jews in the world. That's what's insane. And it's like, no, we have maybe 15 million, maybe in the whole world. And
And it's
it's like,
still not, we're still behind
yeah,
like the pre-Holocaust numbers.
totally. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting because I was so far left. I was indoctrinated in every freaking way. I was so judgmental. I was so mean to people who were for Trump. Like, I thought you were like evil. And not that I'm obsessed with him by any means. I still think there are such problematic things about him. Um, but I think for me, it was such a wake up call that, like, oh my God.
Cool.
Yeah. So for me, I was like super progressive. I went to social work school at NYU, like basis for a lot of like this indoctrination. And I know I remembered at the time being like, this doesn't feel like completely right, but I didn't think anything of it because people were telling me like, this is how you're supposed to be. You're not a minority. You're part of like white supremacy and you need to like learn about it, which I did. And I do think there was some value in that and understanding how we do. Like, I look white like everybody else, and who's to say like I didn't benefit from it, but it doesn't mean that we don't have our own oppression, and it's not an oppression Olympics. And we judge people so hard, and I think what happens is religion isn't the place where you get your morals anymore. Religion has really taken a nosedive in communities, for the past probably 20, 30 years, and politics has replaced that. So the Democrats became, oh my God, this is where I get all my morals and values. The extreme right, same thing. And they're so conflicting and they're so divisive that it's like, if you're not part of it, you're a horrible person,
Yeah.
And this was like the wake up call to be like, holy crap, like, maybe I was a little bit that way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I actually I didn't really realize it back in 2021. I
Yeah.
saw how I think that was the realization of like, okay, people know what anti-Semitism is, but people don't know what it actually means. People don't know what actually is the reason, what is anti-Semitism. They know that it happens, and that's what I realized. I'm like, oh, they don't know the history. They don't know anything of that sort. But I think I was more naive too back then in 2021, and I was just like, oh, I got to be part of this movement just like everyone else, and I gotta like, if I don't say anything, then I'm shunned. And if I say anything, I have to be careful with whatever the heck I'm saying because I will probably be shunned for whatever I'm saying. But I
Mhm.
really think October 7th was the biggest wake up call. I think 2021, for me at least, and I know other people, and it actually just shows a lot of people didn't realize back in 2021 as bad as it was in October 7th, which obviously it was worse.
Yes. Right.
Um, but that was like the biggest slap in the face of, oh, it's literally right in front of me. I thought, like David, when we were messaging back then in 2021, I'm like, yeah, I see people we work with posting, but now I'm like, oh no, they really, like, they're literally right here showing me how they are so uneducated about what's going on and about anti-Semitism and about Israel and about this war and about really just everything. Actually, and yeah, it was the biggest wake up call. I'm now still trying to process it, and
Yeah, it takes a
it's
long time. I mean, I was just coming off of that in late 2023, and Dave, you were talking before about some kind of meme that went around. By any chance, was it the girls having coffee where they said Zionists are terrorists? Because that one certainly got me, the dog whistle.
Oh, the dog. Like, no, no. He that meme. I didn't see that meme, but
Oh, that meme destroyed my life.
yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of memes. I'm a meme
Yeah.
connoisseur, as I would like to say, but
Uh-huh.
like, it's just so frustrating. Like I really don't have any words. Like I'm just so disappointed in just like a lot of
Hmm.
people that I know. Like I don't think anybody necessarily that I know means what means like badly, but like it
No.
does, but I'd be lying if I said that like it didn't piss me off
Hmm.
when I'm talking to like my non-Jewish friends about all of this. And while I don't necessarily think that they don't care, I just have a hard
Hmm.
time kind of believing that like it just doesn't feel like they can kind of see it from my perspective.
Right.
it's, and sorry not to interrupt you, I think what Beth and I sometimes talk about too is like, I don't think they will ever actually get it.
Hmm.
I don't think they will ever actually understand it because they are not in our shoes. They are not Jewish. They don't have that background. They don't have that internal, like, even ancestral background. Every part of that, of being Jewish, like, they will never fully be able to understand. Um, but what I want them to understand is that even if they don't fully get it, they should at least hear when we say it hurts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, on October 7th, I was actually traveling in Greece with some friends. I
Hmm.
still remember getting to Crete, getting in like because obviously like I didn't have Wi-Fi there. Like I don't like turn my Wi-Fi on because it's like I don't want to pay extra. Who does? But we got
Right.
to our Airbnb. I connect to the Wi-Fi. I obviously go on Instagram to like post just like pictures of my trip, and all of a sudden, just like I see like all my Jewish friends that I grew up with just sharing all of those videos on October 7th. I remember seeing that video of Shani.
Yeah.
I don't want to even try to pronounce her last name just because I don't want to butcher it out of respect. And it's shocking that the only people that were sharing those videos from October 7th in Israel were other Jews. It's just kind of like annoying to like to basically go on Instagram, see the same people that posted about, George Floyd.
I know what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's it is.
Annoying that only Jews
Yeah,
posted.
I saw people posting like the video, but the only people that were posting
Hmm.
it were Jews and not
Hmm.
anybody else. Like the people that were posting
Yeah.
about like
Yeah.
BLM.
And you would think, I mean, that I went to the Nova exhibit and that video, even though I've seen it, that video got me and it gets me not only sad and like depressed, but angry. It's like, how did people see that and that their reaction isn't like, what the fuck? Like, how do people do that?
That's what
I mean,
I'm really confused about right now. And I keep replaying it over and over again in my head. I'm like, why do people not see it? Why are people not getting it? It just, I
yeah,
don't get why, and why people didn't like talk about it as much. Only Jews were posting. And then finally, once non-Jews were posting, they still had to add a but,
yep,
or they would be like, this is not okay, what's happening, but, and then they would still have to put in that they don't agree with the Israeli government or something like of that sort. And it's like, you don't even we're not even talking about the Israeli government. What's happening right now is straight up terrorism, and it's not okay. Why can't we just say that and be
right.
done? But the people who were adding the but, or people who whatever, and if they weren't, they were getting shunned, or they were getting like consistently like destroyed online if they didn't add blaming the Israeli government. And that is what something I don't understand. Some people don't even add government. Sometimes they just add Israel and that's it. And that makes it worse. People don't see that that's also really painful to see as well. Um, and it's how do you even like,
Right.
I'm still trying to figure out why this is like this. Why are we still, why?
Well, I think it's also the double standard because no one has a problem saying we stand with Palestinians. Even then, before Israel even retaliated, it was, oh, we feel for Palestinians and Israelis for what had happened. Nothing happened to Palestinians at that point, you
Yeah.
know? And it's just like there's some kind of dirtiness to being Jewish or Israeli that you have to caveat it with something
Yeah.
in order to just stand up and be like, terrorism is wrong. And honestly, those were the fights I was getting in because I was like, not even fights, but just me pointing out when people were so one-sided and couldn't say the word Jew or Israeli. And I was like, it's not a dirty word. And we're not trying, and the whole thing is like, why are we taking sides? Like,
Yeah.
it's anti-Hamas, we're anti-terrorists. When did that become taboo? Like,
We're
that's
also
insane
all
to
on
me.
the same side. We're all
Yes,
actually wanting both to live in
yes,
peace and no one to die, except for
right,
Hamas. Like,
yes,
like that's literally, we're all on the same side. It doesn't make any sense. And the only thing that I can keep going back to is that it's anti Semitism. It's all
yeah,
back to that. It just keeps going back to that. And people don't like, they don't realize that that's how it starts. That's how it is. That's how it's
yeah,
always
Yeah,
been.
yeah. It's like the most bewildering thing to me is like people forget why Israel has been fighting for the
right.
last what 7 months, like 8 months.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, like people forget like what happened on October 7th, and they act like, oh, here goes Israel just deciding to bomb Gaza again. And it's just like, no, like like what news sources are people reading? Like getting your information from
Well,
TikTok or from social
no,
media.
because sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there because that is the problem is that mainstream media was actually reporting this way, and it's not just TikTok. You're seeing it on CNN, you're seeing it on MSNBC, you're seeing it on regular news stations, and of course everybody is going to trust that. I trusted that for so long, but then when you start to see, and that is really what got me, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but like I feel like that's such an important level that we're at is that mainstream media is repeating blood libel. It is like really manipulating the masses, and that is what's terrifying to me. Sorry,
Yeah.
David, go on.
And I think also, sorry to add on to that too, I think that because going back to how many people we are so small. So
Right.
even if, even if all of us were to talk and say everything and tell the truth and speak out loud, it still wouldn't be enough. And so what is out there is based off of the majority, which is not
Right.
us. And
Right.
that's why it like keeps coming out as like it makes me keep thinking about like social media and our friends posting, and it's like what they're seeing and what they don't actually know, and it's because the majority is not Jewish, so the majority
Right.
doesn't know. Like that's really
Right.
as like I know that sounds crazy, but
But it's true.
we are small, and it's very obvious to us, but it doesn't seem obvious to anyone else because of anti-Semitism.
Yeah,
Right.
I completely I completely agree. And I guess just like being with friends when like October 7th broke out, like
Hmm.
it was a very weird last couple of days in Greece for me, because it's like every chance I got,
Hmm.
I had to like look for updates, you know?
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
became very, I tried having a good time with my friends, but like in the back of my mind for those last couple of days, I was just like constantly thinking about like, oh, here we go. Like because again,
Yeah.
from 20 in 2021, like I already knew what was about to happen. I already kind of
Yep.
knew what was about to happen. So I was not looking forward to all of that.
Can you just elaborate? Because what I think you're meaning is that the incident isn't even like the end of it. It's like the war just began for
Exactly.
us.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
is
Like
that?
I knew one that Israel was going to respond. Two,
Hmm.
when I saw that there were planned protests, or rather, like
Hmm.
at this point, I'm just going to call them parades on October 8th. You know, and then you see pictures from those
No.
parades of people just like
Mhm.
praising, an attack on innocent Israelis at a music festival. It got very um it was just I mean, it was depressing. That's basically like the best word I can come up with right now. But it really
Yeah.
just ruined the last couple of days of my trip, because I knew that when I came back to the US, like these things would just continue going on. And then it just ramp up as soon as Israel like responded and would try to
Hmm.
like actually take out Hamas.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. And I think there was this like obsessiveness of having to know what was going on every second. And I was on social media like every minute, like, I need the updates. I need to know what's going on. I need to know what I have to encounter in over here when I step outside my door. I remember being like so paranoid. I'm like, do people know I'm Jewish? Like, why would they? But like, and I think that's where we get into a race thing is like, yeah, you step outside and you're black, people know you're black. Like you don't know that someone's Jewish. But there was this feeling of like you felt you were being hunted, and it was a really scary thing and still to this day, like I will say Amalia and I are both gay, and my experience of walking down the street with my wife, I'm still weird holding her hand. Like, I don't know who's going to react, but I will tell you, being a Jew is less visible, but I am more terrified to be open as a Jew. I mean, I'm wearing I wear my high out, I wear my Jewish star, but I am terrified of how someone is going to react to that and when I haven't done anything, you
Yeah.
know?
yeah,
And most people also don't get that either. Which is like I had a friend when all this happened, she actually sent me like baked goods and cookies and stuff from an Israeli restaurant. And it was the sweetest thing that she sent it to me, but she didn't think about how scared I was that someone was delivering from an Israeli restaurant to my apartment with my hamsa
Mhm.
outside my door, so I got to move that. I don't like that is something that people they didn't see or think about how scared we were as Jews. Even that little detail, like going
Mhm.
to an Israeli restaurant, ordering the food. and then delivering it to a Jewish home. And then now
Mhm.
that person has my address. Like, it's scary in other ways. It doesn't even have to be doesn't even have to
Right.
be on your necklace. It's
Right. I think that, and and I think this is where people are like, oh, it's Islamophobic, but I see someone who's delivering my food and their name is some Arabic name, and no one's ever been mean to me, but I have this fear, like, I have a mezuzah on my door. What are they going to do? Like, and like when we're in Ubers, like, doesn't have to be an Arabic or Muslim person, but like, people just hate Jews. So, like, my wife has brought up things about holidays and being Jewish. I'm like, you have to not do that right now,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if someone's going to kick us out of the car, attack us. Like, I don't want people like knowing when we're in an enclosed space where they can really harm us. I don't want to be public about
Yeah.
it right then.
And I don't want to compare to anyone either. I think Judaism is a separate thing. I don't want to compare at all. I just am like saying this is the pain that we're
Right.
experiencing, and it can be in these certain ways. Even as simple like like my name, for example. My name is in Hebrew, and I think what you're talking about in the Uber, an Uber driver asked me what my name means or where does it come from, and I knew that it was also Greek, so I lied and I said it's Greek, but I don't know much about it. Where I
Hmm.
really like, I know exactly what my name means. It's a Hebrew word. It means the work of God. And I couldn't bring it out because I was scared that this guy
Hmm.
was going to like do something to me. He's the one driving. Like, this is like the fears that was consistently and is still consistently happening on a daily basis for us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sorry, Dave. I think you were about to say something too.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, no, I was just gonna say that, like, I'm a lot more cautious talking about, like, Israel, it's just like in public now.
Same.
Like, I'm very mindful of where I talk about it, who I talk about it to, because one, I don't know like what's gonna happen outside. Like, I like there are a lot of crazy people outside, I don't I'm not like in the mood to just be, attacked.
Hmm.
but and then it's just like I constantly feel like I have to look over my shoulder,
Hmm. Yeah.
like just walking down the street,
I was also going
which
to
is
add,
crazy.
it is crazy, and that's like another thing. I don't think people know that we feel like this again
Hmm.
because we are a minority, and no one sees the pain that we're seeing, all this pain that other Jews are feeling or experiencing, and that we see it online from our own like Jewish outlets, and no one else sees it but us. So they don't actually
Right.
know that we're experiencing all these like the anti-Semitism. And if we
Hmm.
post about it, think about it. I I have some friends that I'm the only Jewish person they know, and they have
Right.
maybe like 800 followers, 1,000 followers, whatever the heck they have. It's like out of those people, one person in their social media is posting about anti-Semitism.
Right.
That's crazy.
It's
That's
crazy.
nuts.
I mean, I grew up in in Virginia, and me and like two, three other people were the only Jews in my whole school.
Hmm.
Wow.
They don't know anything, and we're quiet. We go along with like what our friends are doing. We love Christmas. We celebrate all the holidays, and like the Jewish holidays. We got nothing. I got nothing from everyone. Like, I was
Hmm.
just doing. I I was celebrating the Christian holidays with all my Christian friends.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, and people don't see it. They don't know.
I mean, I'll be honest, most of my friends are Jewish and we don't talk about it. Like, I feel crazy, honestly, in my group of friends because I've been posting incessantly probably since 2021. But I wanted to educate myself, I wanted to educate other people. And, that was what I felt was in my control and I could do. And finally, people woke up a little bit October 7th. And I don't judge or fault anybody. We have lives to live. You got to move on. And to be honest, like, they win if it disrupts our lives so much, But, they've pretty much moved on, it feels like. Maybe there's a post here or there, but I'm the only one continuously upset and like really trying to understand like how we got here.
And no
And
one's
I
checking
and
in, right?
Yep.
yeah.
No one's checking in. I hate that everyone's trying to make us feel like we're crazy for still posting. It's
Right,
because no one else is speaking for us. That's why we're
right,
still posting.
right,
Yeah.
We're so small
Yeah.
and we're so
Yeah.
not loud like they say we are.
right. Well, we should be. And listen, we could
Exactly.
scream like you said, every single one of us, no one would hear us because we're
Right.
so small.
Right.
And I just wanted to address something, sorry I said before, because I don't want it to be taken as Islamophobic. Um, I don't think people understand what an Islamist is and the difference between that and a regular Muslim. Like these are the extremists, right? And they, in their own words, say they want death to America, death to Jews, death to Israel, and death to the West. So they are a cult, a death cult. And they don't
Yep.
care about their own people. That's why you're seeing Palestinians die, because they didn't build infrastructure for them. They built it for terrorists. And they don't give the aid that should be going to the civilians. They give it to themselves so they can plan to hunt down Jews. And then eventually they'll come here and do it to us. And
Like,
yeah, it isn't the majority of Muslims, but it's 15 to 25%. And we're talking about numbers. Yeah, that is not a large percentage. However, when you look at the numbers, that's 150 to 250 million people. That's terrifying. And we can't even try and go against that. And they are geniuses at PR. And that's why you're seeing it here, and where that comes from actually is the Soviet Union. So this is the perfect segue into Dave, you telling us a little bit more about your parents' experience and like what they went through, because that was honestly like the birthplace of this Marxist propaganda and Zionism being racist. They came up with that shit. And
yeah.
we're here because of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can tell you a bit about like what I heard from my dad. So my dad grew up in St. Petersburg, otherwise known as Leningrad,
Hmm.
back then, and it was, from how he would say it, like it was rough. He didn't know he was Jewish until he was like 10.
Wow. That's crazy.
And everybody, for some strange reason, everybody else knew he was Jewish.
Hmm.
Like he told me the story about how he used to like wait in line for like bread or something, and then like people made comments like, "Oh, look at that little Jew boy."
Mm,
Obviously, they said in Russian, but
right.
and like things like that. Like he used to get into fights all the time,
Hmm.
um, and it was just like hearing all of that as a kid, as a teenager, as like a young adult before 2021.
Hmm.
I was like, wow, that was terrible.
Hmm.
And then 2021 happened, and October 7th happened. I'm like, okay, great. Now I have my own stories of like, but like from things I see on like social media, where it's like I share, for example, like videos of like these jihadis
Hmm.
just like shouting death to Jews, like we'll kill Jews, like slit Jews' throats, or whatever nonsense. And it's like it's nothing, not like crickets.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
And
okay.
it's infuriating. Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like no, like no, like and then I still see these same people post their bullshit about like free Palestine, all eyes on Gaza, all eyes on Rafah.
Hmm.
Like like I'm not here saying like, oh, I'm cheering on what's happening in
Yeah.
Gaza or in Rafah, but like, are you seeing what I'm posting? Are you seeing what I'm sharing? Like, I know you see what I'm sharing,
Right. Well,
and
yeah.
it's uh, it's just like confusing and just like infuriating and frustrating and just like depressing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's upsetting. And to be honest, I'm not rooting for Palestinians to die. I am rooting for them. The news and people make it seem like nothing has been progressed of what Israel's doing in Gaza. Actually, it has. They've uncovered thousands upon thousands of tunnel shafts. They found artillery in children's beds in UN buildings. Okay, UN is complicit, and Their teachers are complicit. Some of them actually were involved on October 7th. They have found hostages, not only from the swap, which I mean, I'm not someone whose family is there, so I am not here to judge, but that's exactly how we got here. Yahya Sinwar was a prisoner and was released in a swap, and that is why this is happening. So it just feels like unless there's change, you're going to be doing the exact same thing. And they have to eradicate Hamas. And there are definitely people who are like, you're not going to only do it militarily. No, you're not. But if you don't close those tunnels and like figure out what's there, they've found dead bodies, they've found hostages. Like, yes, that is something. And it sucks. And it's devastating and tragic that any innocent Palestinian would die from this. But we also have the lowest record in history of combat in an urban setting. Okay. And not even that. Why isn't Egypt or any surrounding country held responsible for not taking in refugees? They all closed their borders. Like, why isn't that an issue? No one wants to help. These people are blocked in. No one wants to hold Hamas accountable. It's just insane to me. It's like
I
they
know.
are doing this, and the narrative is like Israel's just these beasts who are just going in to hunt down Palestinians. No, that's actually just a giant projection of what Hamas did to Israelis and what they're actually doing to their own people. And
Yep.
it's just mind boggling to have people sit there who aren't even involved and tell you with a straight face that's propaganda and indoctrination, and I don't like you imposing your narrative. And it's just such like a slap in the face. And it's just like, how are
No
we supposed to
connection.
not react with anger?
Right. And we're just consistently being gaslit by people who have no connection to it
Yep.
whatsoever, as if they know better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to like wrap up, like, and we could do a part two, but I think this was just so healing for us because we don't get to talk about this. It's rare that we're in a circle where we can each talk about our experiences. And I think what's really telling is we all had the same experience, and like we are all very separate people. Like, I don't know David, I met him today. So it's just like, and I think one thing I wanted to end with is like, what is so great about being Jewish for you? And it's this. It's connecting. It's knowing exactly what someone else feels when
Yeah.
they're Jewish. And it's just like you don't have to say anything. It's just like
Yeah.
this understanding.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
We have each
I
other.
completely agree. Yeah.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah. Like
We are one
Yeah, we're
I
giant.
one
find
giant
myself
family.
just connecting with Jews all the time about this. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
If
Yeah.
anything,
anyway.
it's made us feel more,
Well,
it's made me feel more connected to my Judaism more than ever.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
yeah.
For sure.
Yes. Well, thank you both for coming on. And I hope this is helpful for anyone out there who's Jewish or not Jewish, particularly, because I hope you are understanding where we're coming from and what we're feeling. And there might be a part two if we can all get on again. But if not, like, I hope you took something from this and hear our pain, hear our frustration, maybe learn a little bit about what is actually going on. And thanks again for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.